innovate.
But look, I mean, it's volatility right up in those lanes, and to get him rolling ahead, cover the weakness. I really like that point. As eStar actually on the blue side, so LNG, we talked about getting this first pick, what it means. They will be starting on the red side here in this series, and eStar, a nice little bit of a takeaway, as that Tristana continues to be above 80% of the ban rate. They're even going to ban it against LNG. We'll see what eStar decide to hover over for their first maneuver.
When a team's macro is all about getting 2 towers at the top lane as fast as possible, you definitely don't want to give them Tristana. I love that takeaway from eStars. Also great from LNG to take away the Pantheon. That has been Hacker's greatest champion. And wow, I did not expect this one, but we're going to have Udyr come out on 11.2, just first pickable right now. I'm very surprised.
You know what? OMG yesterday, blue side second game, they decided to first pick Udyr. So Hacker's like, you know, old team, I'll do it as well. Great thing to start off the day. We saw SOFM yesterday on it with the Frostfire Gauntlet.
Yeah.
So, but I think we're going to see the Chem tank. Because LNG, go for standard. What's left open? What's strong? The Kai'Sa, of course, first pick worthy.
Not too surprising here, and Lilia, it doesn't fare too badly against the Udyr, but I do want to talk about sort of the strengths of Udyr and the limitations. He is a very early game focused sort of champion. He's great in 1v1 or 2v2 skirmishes, but as the game gets later on, his teamfight presence is very, very lacking. So eStars has to go for something that is much more early game focused to pair with this Udyr, or else it's gonna fall quite far behind. So I do want to see what they do now, because we have talked about this in pregame. eStars, they like riding hyper carries, and hyper carries don't really pair with Udyr, because Udyr doesn't do much in the team fight. So
right.
I wonder what they're gonna do with this strategy now that they've also drafted Xayah, which typically has been seen as more of a 3-item carry. So this late game and early game power spikes not really fitting together. We need to see something aggressive, at least from their solo lanes.
And you're running into a Hecarim right as well. So early base damage of what we've seen from Phoenix Tiger Stand compilation to quick clear the camps and then get in these really strong skirmishes. But you're right, it falls off, it peters off. You become a nuisance who just becomes a bare stun bot. At the very least, you're going to add that with a Renekton, so you got a strong top side here, Mr. Chu, as what we talked about, the stun from ZS to pair up with Hacker. So they're playing the usual eStar game plan. And straight away, Mikuya just decides, I'm going to play Nara again and probably play the weak side.
Yep, and I do expect both sides to target quite heavily the Thresh and the Leona, depending on who wants to take those away. So far, Iwandi is still 100% win rate on Leona with a 9.3 KDA. It's one of his best champions, and with Kai'Sa, that's a very strong kill lane to go with. On the other hand, for eStars, we talked about going into the top lane and finding these skirmishes. Thresh has to be the strongest champion to do that, and on Xiaoxi, it's really a no-brainer. You'd never want him on that champion. But for now, LNG is going to be taking away the Orianna. Irma, Orianna, and Syndra, he loves playing with spherical champions, I'll call them. And disengage-oriented mages. So just making sure that they can't have that scaling team fight to go with Rat.
Note 5 on Orianna, 3 on the Syndra. Apart from that, we did talk about, you know, the potential of things like Galio for both of these mid laners. We're still waiting for that one because eStar getting rid of global threats. And usually when we get a Twisted Fate ban, we get the Galio to match. So wouldn't be too surprised if eStar just take that one away. But then the question we have to ask, Clement, is what is the priority for LNG, right? Like, do we get a blind pick support? Do we then now take the Galio since it wasn't banned away?
This is pretty interesting for me. I'm not sure about getting the Galio right here. I feel like the Galio plus Hecarim combo doesn't feel like a particularly strong mid-jungle duo. We haven't really seen that being selected just yet. And I actually expect LNG to go for something a little bit more scaling heavy. Just play safe. Udyr's really strong, while Hecarim early on isn't really a match for the Udyr. So I don't think they're going to play through mid-jungle centric. I think they're going to play almost pure scaling and pure just push. So I do expect something like the Azir to come out actually on the side of for Icon. Meanwhile, for eStars, they're indexing more into the early game. They definitely need to get things going with this Renekton. You don't really expect the Renekton to win out late against the Gnar. He definitely has to get his value early on. So a bit more aggression here. I like with the Thresh banned out, definitely the second go-to option will become the set. And the set could still go into the mid lane, theoretically. So, you know, they still give them a little bit more of that timer to consider their options.
But Clement, remember that Chelsea obviously gets this ban against him quite a lot. You know, the Thresh has been the top tier ban against eStar for this reason. The set follows suit after that. So a lot of engage potential, and what we've seen in the LPL is that level 1 all in, burning the flash, level 2 reach first, Hex flash into the re-engage with Ignite. So there's cool combos we can see out of that Xayah set. But a Rise, sir. A Rise is the last thing I kind of expected from Irma.
Yeah, I wouldn't really think the Rise was fit that well. I like the Azir here just because, like we talked about, you're not really going to contest the mid jungle 2v2 with the Udyr and Hecarim already locked in. That's sort of a losing matchup for you. And I do really like the Azir champion here. It's a little bit slower. All of LNG's lanes are not going to be particularly aggressive, but they have a killer team fighting composition. And if they can wait out the storm coming in from the top lane, I do favor their comp in the 5v5.
Yeah, I think at the end, like, you launch Nara into a wall, you launch the Azir, and then everything else is cleanup crew. Clement, you talked about eStar having to get on the map early, even with the elements of scaling. Does that still reign true? Is there a part of eStar's comp that you still see being able to outplay now that we have, you know, the mid-80 carry, being able to impact at 3-4 items?
So I want to see how this Rise pick is actually utilized. This is a sort of interesting champion we've seen slowly creep back up with Doinby playing a lot. And in this matchup, he does get pushed in quite a bit, but post level 6, he does have the mana, and with the blue buff, he can start roaming a lot. And I think roaming towards the top lane, breaking the top lane open, and then sending Irma as what I believe is their best player into a split pushing position could help them extend their early game leads by quite a bit, especially against the Gnar, because even if you break the first tower, then the Renekton's not going to be able to actually get that much advantage against a Gnar matchup, but the Rise is different. The Rise actually has quite a bit of kill threat into that lane if he's put in that solo split push position. So that's what I expect to happen. We will see the Realm Warp in the top lane making plays, and then when that lane's broken open, I do expect to see the Rise on the side lane instead of the Renekton.
And what I love about the Rise right now is there's a lot of variance in the build path, right? You know, we are seeing the tier consistently across the board, but it's either the Liandry's or the Riftmaker we've seen a couple of times. Mole has played Riftmaker all of the time that he's played Rise, where Doinby is like that Liandry's kind of guy. So we'll see what we get out of Irma here. It's pretty the standard rune choice across the board, but Icon going for Comet in the mid lane to see if he can bully out the matchup. As we enter Summoner's Rift, and LNG and eStar will be trying to get some wins on the board. LNG are 3-1 at the moment, folks. eStar 2-3. And eStar, that team that want to find wins against some of the better teams to push themselves up. As we are in Suzhou, to correct myself, it is LNG's home arena. As Irma, Rat, and Xiaoxi are deciding that they want to shed some blood, or at least try to, on home turf.
Yep, and we're looking at the skills right now. Irma not putting a skill point down into the Q or the E just yet, making sure that he has that potential to catch someone out. Unfortunately for him, LNG do back out quite quickly. And just to take a look at the runes here, we do have Press the Attack coming out from the Renekton, pretty standard into against a range matchup. And also the Comet coming out from Azir, just giving him a little bit more poke. He does have lane priority before level 6 and before Rise can really scale up and have enough mana to continuously push the lane.
So I want you to talk me through these lanes at that point, because you said that, you know, Rise finds an advantageous position to push out lanes, sit in a side lane, run with TP and Realm Warp, and kind of advance eStar through this early to mid game. Walk me through again how eStar want to play these lanes, considering that, you know, we do have volatility.
So there's a couple key points that we want to pay close attention to, and that's going to be the level 4 coming in from Udyr. Typically, Udyr does not scale into the bear form until level 4. He actually puts 2 points into Phoenix before that. So he can tower dive with the help of Renekton, and that's a 2-stun tower dive that is very, very potent. But we do have to wait for Udyr to farm up just a little bit more. So that's likely going to happen in his second rotation if the opportunity presents itself. That's kind of one kill point. And another thing I want to look at is when Rise goes past post 6, when he has that 3 points into his E, he can start split pushing against the Azir. He can actually get the wave control back, and that's when he can start making a lot of plays towards the top side. So I think those are the 2 early game points that we have to look out for, and which I really think that Tarzan has to be the one to step up and kind of answer towards eStars.
It's going to be hard because I think Hacker's shown he's a pretty good jungler, as Xiaoxi has done something that we haven't seen in any of these set matchups. Hasn't forced the flash, hasn't tried to be aggro at level 1 with a face breaker. Instead, just sends out the haymaker and iWonder gets a pop back. So nothing happens in this set lane for one of the first times that I'm casting, but bit of a push here from Rat. They'll be able to get out and get some vision early. Try and track where Tarzan's going, but he's already towards the top side, and Xiaoxi instead going to be clearing a ward that was put earlier in the river by Icon.
Just talking about the bot lane CS different, it is because LNG did decide to leash for their jungler, so they basically gave up half of the first wave. They were playing it super safe. They knew that the level 2 was going to come out of eStars first. They don't contest that at all. Instead, they let Tarzan actually get advantage over the top side, and this is a play that LNG does pull off a lot. Like we said, Tarzan actually doesn't gank that frequently early. He's actually a very low tempo early game jungler, but he does prioritize himself in terms of that farm, and he does look for a lot of tower dives going forward. So setting their jungler up for success and making sure that Mikuya isn't going to fall prey to eStar's bread and butter play.
And start looking at how they can make this rotation. Clement and I talked about it before in our opening segment, and what was the timing there, Clement? It was about 8 minutes 30, or sorry, 7 minutes 30 to start moving the bottom lane up.
We did see LNG, they like to swap very early on and then preemptively swap their top laner without the use of teleport towards their bottom lane. So they basically are 2 steps ahead of the LPL game, where everyone is coming in around 8 minutes. They're already swapped and completed. They're already taking an extra turret plate. It is a fairly interesting play, and it does require a lot of setup from your bot lane to pull off correctly, but they found a lot of advantages with it. They like to play this way. And just taking a look at Tarzan's wards here and his pathing, he did set up his top side very well. We talked about that level 4 coming in from Hacker, where he does get that bear form. We see Tarzan already in place to counter that. He's making sure that this Narc can continuously push in without the threat of the jungler. And I think very evidently ZS probably did tell him about the fact that, hey, top lane, the scuttle's already down. Hecarim might have walked into your jungle already, so don't go here. Just continue to farm up.
Yeah, really well spotted there, Clement. Shown on the bottom right of our screens just a moment ago. So Tarzan goes back to farming. Note that both of these junglers got similar reset timings as well. Now they're back on the map. Hacker has gone past that level 4 point that you wanted to see, where he now has, you know, the two points in the bear stance, so he can start roaming around and getting proactive. But he too is going to make a second back here, get some of those items. Tarzan doing the same. So a very stagnant early game. And chat, I know you might be a little bit confused. We've got a lot of timers to watch out for. Now move to the next one at 7 minutes 30 or around there for the proactive Herald you talked about. That ward's going to expire then too as well. So knowing if Hacker is going to be around that area first, as Mikuya pushing out, getting a good reset timing himself. He's actually up in CS in this lane, so there's a lot of information on the map right now, but just note that LNG are trying to get proactive and move ready for that timer.
Yeah, so LNG are setting themselves up for multiple plays on the map right now. They have a lot of priority coming in from the top lane. The teleports are still there in the lane, so they could decide to just start this Drake up. They know that the Renekton is going to be caught in a bad place between pushing his own lane and trying to join this one if it is required for Mikuya to join. So this is a very strong play. They're playing off the power spike of the serrated dirt coming out from Light. Great in skirmishes, early game as well. And in the meantime, we do see the play from Irma here, just going towards his top side, making sure that that pathway heading toward top is secured. They do have the pink ward there, and if they want to make that roam, they definitely can have that opportunity to just walk through the left side of mid lane and then go towards the top lane. So, you know, really easy to play. And I think what we're going to see is LNG might even try to, after handing off this blue, might try to see if they can cut off anything from this blue. From coming in from eStars. If the Ryze doesn't get that blue buff early on, it actually makes it very difficult for him to compete the wave push against Azir. But you know, they're a little bit too late behind that play, so the handoff is still going to happen. And we do see the pings coming out from eStars. They definitely want to cut this map in half and probably contest the Raptors. Yeah,
let's wait and see though, Clement, because we are getting towards that timer. If we do cut the map in half, then we'll note that the early setup of control from LNG will enable, the vision coming across of crossing the map. Note we are at 7 minutes 30 now, and LNG's bottom lane still hasn't moved. Mikuya's moving down, however, as the flash is coming in, and this might set them off as eStar are committing to the play. The haymaker right down the middle, and the wave pushing in. Herald about to spawn, Light and iWonder unable to back with the wave position.
Yeah, that was a really good flash in. Even though it feels like a flash for cleanse, that's definitely in favor of Xiaoxi, as he has Hex Flash as always. And we can also see LNG now being very, very protective of Mikuya in this top lane. They have wrestled all of that control back away from eStars. The river is completely covered in their own wards, so they're making sure that this Gnar can continue to bully the Renekton out. And I'm saying he's doing a very good job. He already has a cull advantage over him. That's 350 gold that will be given back to him. And there's also free stats upon that as well. So he's doing a great job here with the 20 CS lead he's already accrued. All they need to make sure is Mikuya can continue to keep eStars off of himself.
Let's just see, though, because Mikuya right now doing well, but we know that a lot of teams will focus towards the top side of this LNG laner. I think it's also important to note that Hacker right now hasn't made a gank, nor has Tarzan. You already talked about Tarzan playing for himself. He's got a small CS lead. But Hacker, being the Udyr, being proactive in the early game is kind of that extra bonus. And Hacker's still kind of waiting. After being spotted out in the mid lane, he's just going to walk up and try and contest vision as the objective is sitting there waiting.
This is a pretty interesting move. Super bold. He knows that the 2v2 can't really contest at this point, so he's just going to straight walk up and start hitting on the Herald. Now, if we look at the rotations on the map, eStars should be the ones rotating in a little bit quicker here, but ZS is so damn low, so I'm not sure that Hacker can continue this.
I don't think ZS, he'll use Dominus, and at the very least he has Flash to try and get a big spin in the middle, as he'll do it now onto Mikuya, but that is a Mega Gnar at the ready. Hacker can't pull the Rift Herald out far enough and it resets. So for LNG, that's a net win, pulling out the ultimate from ZS2. They've moved everyone up and Mikuya now going to get Realm Blob. Here we go. Gnar into the wall, waiting. Hit 3, runs away. It was so telegraphed, Clement. Of course he gets it.
Yeah, that was just way too easy for Mikuya to react to, and we've talked about this in the pregame. Mikuya does not die before 15 minutes. He knows his role way too damn well, and he saw that play coming from a mile away. So now he's going to be able to rejoin. They have the ultimates advantage here, and they also putting eStars in a very uncomfortable position where they could get sandwiched. However, it is going to be Renekton that's going to be here a little bit earlier.
Clement, let's pause a second though. Herald going to come smite down, stolen by Tarzan. Right into the backline though as the Emperor's Divide sets them aside. He starts with a low health bar. There is no ultimate from the top laners of both these teams. Xiaoxi into the backline. He'll fly himself though as Herald is going to time out at this rate with a Haymaker in the middle. It's Udyr with first blood and Hacker walking forward still to take no damage. eStar turned the play around thanks to Xiaoxi and they time out the Herald.
That was a really good heal bait coming out from Rat. Xiaoxi going in, taking a bunch of damage, but able to stay alive throughout all of that. It really changes the course of that fight. And very well done from eStars to actually wrap their soul lanes around through the backside and make sure that they had a numbers advantage there. So, you know, didn't start out that great, but at the end of the day, eStars do come away with that 1-kill lead.
It was a kill that was well-deserved. Hacker picking it up as well. It's going to elevate his position in the jungle. And, you know, that Herald play we expected to see from LNG in the early game didn't happen. We got to that state. We got to a fighting stance where it was pretty beneficial after eStar force out the Gnar ulti. Now we're going to, you know, turbo chem tank on Hacker very early on. So proactivity is going to be the name of the game.
And the changes in 11.2 have really helped Udyr's priority in all of the games that we've seen. Turbo Chem Tank is 400 gold cheaper, and it no longer is a super indexed into magic resistance, which, let's be honest, is one of the most limiting stats you want to get early on. It's actually equaled out right now, so you can play it against any composition that you want, whereas Udyr on 11.1 was almost solely used for against double AP mid-jungle. And I think this really frees Udyr up and allows him more time when the game is more about skirmishes.
And you also get ability haste now as a mythic passive, if anyone didn't see. No longer tenacity and slow resist, which was still a very good stat line on Udyr. But now you get the cooldown reduction, as it were, before the patch. And ability haste goes up an extra 5 too.
I'll be honest, we could talk about the Udyr builds just a little bit later, but we probably have to watch this team fight as it unfolds. Straight 4v4.
Tarzan on a ward. Okay, away he goes. But I think, Clement, we can quickly index into it. Go for it.
So I do actually like the ability haste changes for Udyr, because the way Udyr mechanics works is that he really needs 20 ability haste. That's his breakpoint, where he can keep his Monkey's agility up, his passive up, with a single stance. if you don't have 20 ability haste, you have to use a second ability in between to keep your passive up. So that actually helps out Udyr quite a bit just in his spamming.
Makuya getting realm warped on though in the meantime. He's about to go Mega Gnar. They're going to turn him in. He ults back once again. Flash for this, but Makuya burns his own. A 1-for-1 trade and summon spell as the realm warp keeps being used to kill Makuya and Clement. You already mentioned, he doesn't die too much out of the top laners on the weak side.
We called Makuya the Nunu of the top lane. I don't get to play the game, but neither do you. And he's just been doing such good work for LNG, filling out this role.
He knows he's going to be targeted. He's still up 10 CS up in the top lane. Died before, granted, but that was in the team fight. And meanwhile, as they prioritize that top lane, Icon gets freedom in the mid. He's up 10 CS himself and just picked up a bit of turret plating before it drops in about 30 seconds time. That alleviates a lot of the pressure, so much so that LNG are just edging up on the gold in other areas. As Mac is coming to the top side. That's
incoming.
Dominus, Clement. Makuya doesn't have the ultimate available. Even if he goes Mega, he's waiting, hoping he turns. Jumps on over, about to go into it, but it's too late. As Tarzan for the recovery effort, but it's Icon's ulti that may have set up the play. Tarzan without a mana bar, but Icon autoing away as Irma coming in, and this is early game Rise at the moment. Double buffs, double kill, and double trouble as eStar pick it up.
Beautiful play coming in from eStar. They roam everyone onto the top, and this time, finally without the Mega Gnar ultimate and the Mega Gnar bar itself, they are able to kill Makuya. If first you don't succeed, try and try again is the answer coming out from eStars. Let's watch that play again. An early dominance just to make sure that he can get the rage bar charged up even without hitting minions, so he conceals himself perfectly right there. Tarzan is coming in with very, very low mana. I don't even think he gets to use many of his abilities right here. And Irma walking in past the minion wave to get the snipe kill onto Icon, just finishes off that play beautifully. This is what eStar love to do. They love to play for that top side.
While losing Rod of Ages, it does feel like Rise is still, quite powerful at the moment, Clement. I want to add that context to what we've seen from Doomby, what we've seen from Mole. A 400 gold tier where Rise, loves the mana damage that it provides. I'm going to pause because Xiaoxi might just be dead. He flushes over the wall, matched by Light and Iwandi as well, as ZS can't save his support. And that's a quick kill over to LNG. Proactivity guts the early bird. And I think that kill's going to be well-deserved, especially when Light was the one to pick it up.
And we said this as well, that eStar is the one that has to strike early. They have to be the ones that break open a side lane for that Rise to get maximum value. And so far, they're only equal in gold, so they still need to look for more.
We're looking for a dive. Actually, we find a big shutdown onto Irma. That was pretty quick thinking from Iwandi, but over the wall, ZS now on top of Light, waiting as Tarzan to help his AD carry while Icon's in an awkward position. Iwandi going back into his death, and LNG, make a great play, then just throw it back in the face.
On the flip side, I don't think LNG need to be that worried about making plays early. Instead, they go for the cool scoop, and they're going to lose a mid lane tower for it. So,
they are. Meanwhile, Tarzan, Facebreaker in, the Haymaker, the Ignite down, he won't die. And Xiaoxi won't either. In front of Dragon, a minute left remaining, so everyone's going to be alive to try and fight again.
I have to say that was pretty unnecessary from LNG's side. They didn't really need to do that. They could have sat things out, and also their top laner was on the map showing in the top side, so even though they did get that early kill, it was still going to be a 4v4 regardless. ZS hits them with the teleport. They're going to get rewarded for half of the HP on the mid lane tower, plus the Herald. It just completely wasn't worth it from LNG, and this is going to let eStars accelerate the game.
I think, Clement, it's time to talk about items. What do you reckon? We got about 30 seconds, and you talk about eStar accelerating the game. That's what they wanted with the Rise, and he's got a Luden's Echo. So we're not going to get the Leandris, we're not going to get the Riftmaker, but we do get to have a look at the dive that LNG started.
They do get a 4v2 underneath the tower. They get the first kill, but the exit isn't clean whatsoever. I believe Iwandi does fall down, and it becomes a double kill for Rat coming in from the left side. And the reason I don't like this play is just look at the top side. Their Gnar is clearly not going to join this play. It is a 4v4, and LNG simply did not respect the potential for eStars to rotate in and punish them. They lose a lot of tempo, and for this, it's going to be a little bit harder for them. They're going to have a little bit more difficulty actually scaling up for Kai'Sa and Azir.
Yeah, and even at this point, gold being even, it just feels like eStar want to keep the tempo going. They're going to Realm Warp in to take the Dragon away. ZS is forcing Light away. Supercharger with Chilling Smite, and he used the Killer Instinct eStar have no cost of this because it only adds pressure towards the Dragon. And Clement, are you ready? Because Tarzan waiting for the ultimate before the Dragon wants to steal away, walks in, takes it. Thank you for the leash, son, as the knock-up onto ZS could prove useful. Iwanti absorbing the damage, one more auto away, but he still survives. ZS on a slither as well. No one dies, but the steal away for LNG was perfectly timed.
Iwanti with 30 HP remains alive after that engagement. That was really good positioning from LNG. They force out on the left side of the map, and they basically hold on to the Emperor's Divide, making sure that, hey, if anyone from eStars wanted to get that Drake, they would have to pay with their lives for it. If you look at the summoners, Hacker didn't have his flash, so if Emperor Divide came out and cut out his retreat path, he was just dead. So, unfortunately, eStars, they didn't want to chance it, even though their champions should be stronger at this moment. The positioning from LNG really gives them the edge there, and Tarzan comes in with the steal.
Well, Tarzan, nice little steal here with the Divine Sunderer intact. Just note that across many regions, we've seen a lot of Trinity Force, but people like Jer, people like Hacker actually on the Hecarim have been opting for the Divine Sunderer, so I like it, especially when the option is into a Set, an Udyr, and a Renekton in this game, Clement.
Yeah, you get extra healing coming out, it's a cheaper item, and of course those high HP targets makes it worth it for you. You're not really going to be diving to Xayah all that much, or you should be that successful with it. So I do like this option coming out for him. And the same goes for Mikuya as well. He's going to index into the Divine Sunderer too, and that is a much more side lane focused item. He's just going to make sure that ZS is never going to get any priority on the map again. So what we're seeing is eStar setting up for a strong side lane split push, while just keeping eStars on the back foot, making sure they can't really be the ones to set up the skirmishes.
This is what you set up. Ryze in the side lane, right? You know, Irma netting his advantage, or rather exerting his forces. Herald's put down, and LNG just take it to smithereens, while Irma is going to get the turret for the group up in the mid lane. Gold remains even after that at 20 minutes into the game, and we're A-ramming just a little bit before Baron, before the 3 minutes in which Dragon spawns next. And you can see LNG just trying to exert that force deeper into the enemy side of vision. We might have a fight around the red buff.
Now, Smite does go over down from Tarzan, and Mikuya picks the red buff up.
Yep.
Sneaky little Yordle going in there.
Light's got a red buff as well. I correct myself. It was either him or Light, but either way, it's a win for LNG. Just a small one at that, while we group back around the mid lane. Irma sticking in the side lane up in the top side. You can see that control ward, Clement, towards the red side of the map. Actually giving them a lot of control around mid as well.
So what eStars are looking at is a potential dive. They want to get this game going as soon as possible and get it finished before like the 35-minute mark. They're going to roam the Ryze down here. In the side lane, Ryze does have that split push advantage over the Azir. But also LNG doing a very good job here. I like Tarzan's positioning, hiding in that Raptor brush, making sure that he could cut off the Ryze if he did come down here. And for now, LNG, they just need to wait. They need to put themselves on hold. They just want to make sure that eStars doesn't find a skirmish advantage. And in the late game, Udyr is going to fall off. Renekton doesn't really do that much against these composition, and they should win off based off scaling.
And I think also, you know, if you're able to deny the Mountain Soul, it feels pretty strong from the side of LNG. Hacker, don't even think about it. There's a control ward in the back of the pit by LNG. So that one will be spotted out and left for now. But I was just kind of thinking a little bit deeper about it, Clement, where, you know, the Mountain Soul feels really nice to deny from eStar, from giving it to members that can actually stall so that the Ryze and the Xayah can be more pivotal in these team fights. So do you want to see LNG fight around this next Dragon? Is it a must, or do you just be like, well, we can fight around the next one?
It doesn't really matter either way for them. I think it depends on the wave position. If Ryze has too much of an advantage, I do expect LNG actually just to give it up. Okay. They don't need to rush into this one just yet. And if you look at the items coming out from Icon, you know, he's going for the more scaling option in the Liandry's, but in the side lanes, wow.
They might have actually just found a pick onto Irma. He will die because the Onslaught of Shadows hits perfectly. Mikuya snipes it out, and not sure if ZS should be here. He teleported into the play when no one from eStar were willing to commit, and there you go. They've just given them the Dragon.
And 2 easy kills coming in from eStars. I love the vision play around the bottom side. They saw that Hacker was coming in and he was fairly late. Tarzan actually had the inside track, so they were willing to pull the trigger immediately. And even though they lose the mid lane tower for it, I don't think it really matters because the mid lane tower had lost so much HP, and it really is about the side lane rotations instead. So LNG basically take away another timer for eStars, not going to be forced into that Drake fight.
Trying to find our Wonder here. Chilling Smite goes down with the face breaker. Unbreakable Will, of course, it's popped. Xiaoxi drops the Ignite too, while Dragon is just going to be taken down, and LNG will move to Sol Point. Teleport on top of Makuya. This top laner, nothing new that is experiencing. Realm Warp over the wall. He flashes, matched by Hacker, who goes into bear stance, but Makuya, close to going mega. He'll be sent into the wall. He turns immediately into the wall. He will die. And LNG losing their top laner at the cost of the Dragon, as eStar might make a run towards Baron.
If they don't finish this up with Baron, it feels like a bit of an overcommit for that one kill onto Makuya. We did see the teleport used, the Realm Warp used, the flashes used from Irma and Hacker just to finish that play. And, you know, it's a massive commitment to kind of look for something like that when you should be looking to save your timers for the Dragon. So, indeed, they are going to go for the Baron. I feel like if you commit it that much, you have to make this one work. Well, and it's all about Tarzan. Can he actually find his way into the pit?
Clement, it's a 5k. Tarzan waiting for his moment to strike. They get vision. It's going down even faster now as Icon walks in as well. 2k trying to poke it down. Tarzan gets the steal down. And now for the counter engage. LNG have them at low health bars. Tarzan running around. He'll still drop down as Xiaoxi survives for now. The blades fly and the feathers ready to come in. His Icon sends him backwards and counters the flash. eStar are kaput. And ZS with the counter kill means nothing as a quadra kill goes over the line.
That was just a little bit too easy. I felt like eStars really forced their hand. They put themselves in a bad position where they weren't going to have summoners for the next Drake fight. So you might as well fight where you're strongest. Take the 5v4 now. Roll the die. But unfortunately, LNG, they just come in with the better team fight. Tarzan gets the snipe kill. And you can watch in this footage how useless Udyr really is in a team fight. He only has a single target stun. The AoE doesn't really matter that much. The devastating charge used from Tarzan with the smite here does get the Baron early on. And just look at these members coming in. Hacker's already pretty low from the team fight. Xiaoxi had to take most of that Baron, so their front line is really struggling right now. And that gives, Icon, just such a beautiful V-shaped Emperor's Divide straight into the back line to finish off the damage dealers and give the quadra kill over to Light.
Clement, also, I don't know if it was with perfect timing. You know, chat can go back and have a quick replay there, but the Onslaught of Shadows fearing Hacker as the Baron goes down. Can you smite during a fear? Because I know you can smite during a knockup.
I think you can. You can still smite during stuns as well. But I'm not 100% sure on airbornes necessarily, but I'm pretty sure fears should fall in the same category. So I think he could.
It's just something to note is the engage perfectly timed, but still no matter what, the smite comes down and wins out, and LNG now with a 5,000 gold advantage at 25 minutes. In the LPL, we've seen this quite a lot. Gold just springs out of hand after one singular fight at this meta, especially when now items are advancing so far ahead. Light got a quadra kill, and he picks up a Renan's Hurricane. He's 3 versus 2.5 for Rat. And LNG have so many angles to play through right now. Mid, bottom lane, Baron minions coming in, and a lot of DPS towards these turrets.
The game is slowly sliding away from eStars. They are the one that don't have the scaling in their favor, and now LNG with the Baron, that's going to mean that Rise just isn't going to be able to split push anymore. They're going to be forcing the straight 5v5s, and for eStars, their best hope is really to pick off someone on these flanks to try and see if they can find a straggler within their own jungler, make it a 5v4, or else it's going to be really hard to hold.
He just uses his devastating charge as the Onslaught of Shadows out. That was a mistake as he right-clicked on the turret. He now has to back away. The Sun turret will help them, but that slows down the push quite a bit. And LNG just backing away.
Well done on their part. They don't lose anything.
Well done. Clement, that was kind of a mistake from Tarzan.
Yeah, I mean, well done from eStars. Okay. Well done from eStars. You know, they don't lose any of their towers. So it was a good defend, like, against a Baron push.
I'm with you. I'm with you. eStar holding on to the mid inhibitor turret at the very least. Keep the game going for now. 50 seconds with the Baron buff timing expiring. And LNG now just trying to clear up these waves. Get ready for Dragon Soul, which happens in 45 seconds. The Mountain Soul going to make it near impossible for eStar to crunch the numbers in these fights.
Just a reminder, we do have LNG against FBX coming up, I believe, next week. Very interesting matchup there.
Yep.
And, you know, we only play round of 1 in the LPL with 17 teams present, so every match counts.
That's right. A bit of a cop-out, but I agree. Every match does count. As Xiaoxi going to be called out here. Get hit down with the cow, and a couple more autos followed through. Light gets him in half health, but Hacker just sprints into the AD carry, and this is what he does in fights. Now he thinks about backing away, going back in. He's a bit of a tease, this jungler. And then he starts getting burnt down a little bit. Dragon now spawns, and LNG want their eyes on that damn prize. Mountain Soul available, still poking out and threatening with Maku's Mega Gnar.
Now, the positioning here is really good for LNG. They're keeping their keep away ultimates in the front line here. Realm Orb has to be used to pop in and fight a flame.
Xiaoxi by himself, and he's dead. That was not good. Makuya goes in, ulti into the wall. That's Rat before he can send out the Feather Storm as they fly back in with the Blade Caller icon, who's been performing exceptionally well this game. And this fight was so damn easy. Give him the Mountain Soul, give him the game. Death Timers with a full-blown ace across the board.
It looks like LNG are going to be able to close this one out. 40-second death timers. They're just going to run this straight down into mid lane. It's a perfect ace. They don't even lose a single member for this one. I don't know what to say, man. It's just, it was a little bit too late for eStars to ever make their stamp back into the game, given that they were the team that had to strike out early, but didn't find their mark.
It was easy from there. The steal from Tarzan makes it a quick turn of pace and momentum. However, the game would have gone otherwise. LNG relying on this jungler and taking a game 1 in under 30 minutes.
Despite Light picking up all the kills, I really want the MVP to be Makuya, because he survived the first 2 ganks, which would have been a massive snowball on the side of eStars, and then in the critical Baron play, he actually forces eStars to overextend with their summoners, makes sure that they have to take the risky play into the Baron pit, and LNG just close off of that. A lot of times we don't give weak side players enough